Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Truth, lies, shenanigans. 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 It's the TLS show, coming to you live from the TLS show. It's the TLS show, coming to you live from the TLS show.
Hey everyone, welcome to Truth, Lies, Shenanigans podcast. We're your favorite hosts, bringing the most interesting topics of the week to discuss and ask the question, is this truth, lies, or shenanigans? And of course, we always try to have fun with shenanigans of our own along the way with amazing guests, games, and spirited conversations. My name is Neo Nix. For this week's show, we have two guests. The first is our Spotlight for Black History Month radio show host and estate planning lawyer, attorney Ethel Mitchell. She'll be telling us about the value of estate planning and passing on wealth, particularly in the Black community. And our second amazing guest is a zookeeper at the famed Toronto Zoo in Canada, Ms. Rebecca Clark. She'll share with us some of her wildest experiences as our hosts ask questions about some of the challenges during the pandemic. In our quick fire, our topics will be the truckers in Canada still going at it, historically Black colleges and universities receiving a slew of bomb threats, and the infamous Rudy Giuliani being unmasked on The Masked Singer. And in Shenanigans the Game Show, it's quick and dirty. Before we get into the show, let me introduce you to our amazing hosts for the next hour. We have first up our gamer, tech guru, rock star with the rock band Fallen Machine, coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Mr. Robbie Rod.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday Fun Day. It's still very much winter here in Canada. We got about another foot of snow yesterday, but it was light, fluffy stuff, so it wasn't too heavy to move around. Had an awesome week. I discovered that my granddaughter is very much a Lego kid, like I was. And we just had an unbelievable hour just playing with her new set. Money. Awesome.
Legos. You know, I never could get into Legos. They just got too frustrating for me. So, maybe I'm just bad. I got frustrated with Legos. I can never put together the thing right.
How?
Interesting. Yeah.
I just never put it together right. Then I started just creating my own stuff anyway. So it was never.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
All right, and we have our college student, guitarist, and aspiring comedian coming to you from the campus of the University of Maryland, Miss Ellen Dahl.
Hello. Me and my fellow students right now are in the Monday of the semester. We're on our third week, and we're all trying to convince ourselves that we're students because we haven't gotten back into the swing of things yet. We're all just kind of pretending that we're still on winter break. So pray for us because things aren't going well.
Oh, wow.
We're all tricking ourselves into thinking that it's okay to relax, which is why I'm here. So
Wow. Yeah, I remember being in school a few years. I mean, I was just like, it's not fun.
no,
Especially when you're coming off of a break. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
you got spring break coming up. So look forward to that.
Yeah, sure. They always give you work to do over spring break anyways. They're like, just don't come to school, but, continue to do things for us. It's like, all right, guys.
I'm
I
sure
don't know how people go to my...
That's why it's called Reading Week here. That's why it's called Reading Week. It's not spring
Yeah,
break.
that's more
It's Reading
honest. That's honest. I like that.
All right, and sitting in for Miss Liz E, we have the beloved and highly opinionated mom, pet lover, and the best veterinarian I know, Miss Dr. Robin Johnson.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. It's been another week of saving the fuzzies and ready to get into this.
Saving the fuzzies. So, how was it this week?
I love
Or-
that.
um, we had, I think I had my smallest patient ever was like 3.5 pounds.
So, a dog or cat? What was that?
It was a very tiny dog, a very, very tiny
Oh my
dog.
Wow.
Wait,
gosh.
I thought you take care. I've seen some pictures where you had like a turtle or something, or like uh,
Actually, they did send me pictures. I wasn't at work, but we apparently have a goat there right now, so I'm
oh
missing the goat.
gosh, goat. So yeah, our
Missing the
guest,
goat.
our guest is perfect for you today, then, because we have our zookeeper here today. So
I know.
perfect guest for you. All right, so you may notice Johnny Storm is off today. She's recording an episode of Beyond the Scars podcast. It's real people with real stories of perseverance. So their last episode featured Shermanica, who grew up with a drug addicted mother, followed by decades of repeated violent spousal abuse. You can hear her story and all of the stories of tragedy, pain, and hardship, and how each person was able to survive and persevere, including our own Robbie Rock's story, who tells his story of the after effects of suicide. So subscribe on Spotify, Facebook, Google, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you listen to podcasts, or you can simply go to www.beyondthescars.show. Okay, we have a jam-packed show, so let's get started. Was our first show of Black History Month. And you remember last season we spotlighted the likes of the first Black Olympic rower, Akil Abdullah, and the youngest member, this was my favorite, the youngest member of the Little Rock Nine, Carlotta Walls Lanier. So this season, we're going to spotlight guests who are carving out their own space in Black history and have them share with you the lessons they've learned in our spotlight for Black History Month. Today's spotlight for Black History Month is on attorney Ethel Mitchell. Hey, welcome, Attorney Mitchell. How are you? Welcome to our humble little podcast. Let you
Thank
know,
you for having
to let you
us.
know, glad to have you. So, Attorney Mitchell is an estate planning attorney in the Washington, D.C. suburban Maryland area. And she also is the host of two radio programs on the Radio 1 network in the DC area. You can hear her on WOL 1450 AM and 95.9 FM, Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. on her show. Did I get that right? 9 to 10 a.m.?
8:30 to 10.
8:30 to 10 a.m. 8:30 to
Saturday
10
morning.
a.m. Check her out, WOL. It's Law
That's right.
Talk with Ethel Mitchell, where she has special guests to talk about, you guessed it, law.
Law
You
and
can
money.
money. You can
Yeah.
also subscribe right now to her podcast, Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell, anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Attorney Mitchell, once again, we thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. All right, so my first question before we get into your lauded history,
Yes.
can you tell the audience just one thing that we can't Google about you right now?
Oh, sure. I am an
Mhm.
avid, almost rabid Formula One fan. I absolutely
Formula
Oh.
love
One.
F1 racing.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
No
A lot
way.
of Americans don't realize that the seven-time world champion is a black man.
Oh,
Lewis
wow.
Hamilton England is a seven-time world champion of Formula
Mhm.
One.
Wow.
He's considered by
Wow.
many the greatest of all times, you know? He almost made it
No idea.
8 times this year, and that would have been more than anybody ever.
Have you
He's
met him?
already won races.
Wow.
No, I haven't met him. I've been to a couple of races, but I haven't met him. I'd love to, but no.
So what
Oh,
is it
wow.
like at those races? What is it like? I've been to
I
that. I haven't been to a NASCAR race, but I've been in a NASCAR.
Oh, wow. Cool. That's cool. It's very exciting. It's very loud. It's very noisy. It's lots and lots of people. I've been to Canada. I went to the one in Montreal.
In
I've been to Texas.
Montreal. Wonderful.
Yeah. I went to the one in Texas, which was huge. I think it's the biggest one. They had 380,000 people, I think, and it's just exciting. It's very, very exciting. It really is. So
Oh yeah.
it's now on American cable TV. So when they start in March, you can find it on American TV, and they go all around the
Mhm.
world, all around the world. That's
Mhm.
another thing about it. Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, I
So
guess
yeah.
I'm sure we could not have Googled that about you for sure.
No, you could
No.
not have.
All right.
No, you could not have.
All right, so my first question is, you've been in law for about 25 years and helping families plan out their legacies since what, 2003? Um,
Oh,
now,
before then, in DC in 2003.
oh, so even before then, wow.
I lived in St. Thomas for years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
How is that? I mean, being in the Caribbean islands.
beautiful. I mean, it's like you can go swimming every day, literally every day. It's really paradise. I said I did my career backwards. People retire to the islands. I started in
Yeah,
yeah.
that's my plan. My plan is to retire for sure. All right, so for those that out there that might be interested in following your path, can you tell us what your motivation was to get into law and eventually estate planning? And then describe what that road was like being a Black woman.
Well, my road was interesting in that I never wanted to be a lawyer. I was
Mm,
not. I'm not one of these people that grew up wanting to be a lawyer. No, I had a major advisor. I went to Fisk University, and my major advisor, Curia, Professor Curia, uh, arranged for several of his top students to go to a summer program at Harvard Law School. And it was the beginning of what became CLEO, but it was where they took some top students from African American HBCUs, they call them now, and took us into Harvard Law. We went to classes. We got to talk to big lawyers. We went to law firms. We talked to judges. We even talked to Thurgood Marshall came to one of our meetings, and that,
wow.
and that was just exciting. And so it was like, okay, maybe this is something I should look into, you know. And when I got into Columbia Law School, I went for 3 years. I did not want to work in New York at the time, but I didn't know what else to do. So even though I had a job, I managed to get a clerkship in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands with a federal judge. And so I went to the islands. And when I got there, I was like, now, why should I go back to the cold?
I wouldn't. I,
And so I stayed and I started practicing law.
that's
I
awesome.
married, my husband was a lawyer. He had been in law school with me. We had 2 children. And it took 4 hurricanes to blow me out of there. It really did.
Oh, I
So
guess
I
that
never,
would do it.
yeah, that's what did it. I did not have the difficulty many Black women, especially, tell me they have in the United States, because the judges, the government were Black, and they respected you.
Hmm.
They were not disrespectful. They accepted that you were smart and
Hmm.
that they respected what you had to say. I mean, so
Totally
I
different
never
environment.
totally different
Wow.
environment. It really was.
Mhm.
And so I guess I'm just lucky, but I really didn't have the kind of problems that I hear a lot of my sister lawyers have, even now, because
Mm.
um, my daughter's a lawyer. She has two baby sisters. One of them is a lawyer, and one of them is here in DC. And she tells me some real difficult stories about how they're treated, and it's not
Mm.
good.
Like
But
what?
I haven't had that
If you don't mind
experience,
me
I must say.
asking. How is
Pardon?
she treated? Like what? How is she treated? If you don't mind me
Well,
asking.
mostly it's good, but sometimes there's not the respect that you would expect from, different parts of the court system. And I think she's very compassionate, and so she feels for how the defendants and her clients
Mhm.
are also having to deal with stuff. So it's
Mm.
just a hard system. I never liked criminal law. I
Yeah.
never did. Some of it I had to in the Virgin Islands, but otherwise I didn't do it. Yeah.
So
But
you
I
focus on
love what
estate planning.
I love estate planning because I love families. I love I have seen the difference that it makes. I've been doing it long enough now where I'm now on three generations of the same families in several cases. So I
That's
did
awesome.
the grandparents' trust and their wills, and how I see how what I did helped to pass down to the children who are now in their 50s, and 60s in some cases. And they've been able to take what their grandparents left, what their parents left them, and expanded on that in many instances, starting their own businesses. They have their own families, they have their own money. And one family in particular just really grew,
Hmm.
from what the parents left them. And now their children, who are now in their 30s and 40s, are being able to build on that same foundation.
Yeah.
And that's what estate planning does.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it so much. I really do. It makes a big difference. A lot
So,
of clients tell me it makes a difference. Yeah.
so in a past life, I used to sell life insurance. Um,
Okay. Oh,
and
that's
I mean, it was years
professional.
ago, but past life. So, but
Uh-huh.
one thing I noticed in sitting, I sat with black families, white families, Asians, Latinos. But I found one striking thing with black families.
Hmm.
And of course, not all families, but generally speaking, is it was a hesitancy to talk about death. Um,
Hmm.
and on top of that, a limited knowledge of the importance of passing on wealth.
Yeah.
Now, I know certain ethnic groups have a history of talking money, business, wealth at the dinner table, or at least that's what they've been generalized to be doing. Um,
Hmm.
but that wasn't happening in my family, particularly. And I hear from many black families in my generation that wasn't happening. I am
Hmm.
seeing it happening more now. But my
Hmm.
question is, can you talk a bit about the value of passing on wealth, and then tell me what you're seeing these days in the black community versus previous generation?
Well, one of the things that, let me give you some statistics which surprise me that we don't often hear. According to Pew Research, there are 46.8 million people in the United States who identify as African Americans, roughly 14% of the country. 47% of them own their own homes.
Mm,
Okay. According to Wikipedia, 6 of 10 black men, will make it into the middle class. 27% of black people in general earn an income between 25 and 50,000. 15 earn between 50,000 and 75,000. 7.6% earn between 75,000 and 100,000, and fully 9% earn over $100,000. There are 8% of US millionaires are African American. So that means that there are almost 1.7 million African American millionaires.
wow.
So there's a lot more money in the African American community than we realize. And what I'm starting to see is that people, especially like in this area, in the DC metropolitan area, are beginning to see how valuable, especially their properties are.
Hmm.
I mean, nobody told people that their house would go for $600,000. And that's not uncommon. I've had clients have sold properties that they inherited that their parents bought for $20,000. They sell them for eight and $900,000. And so, in
Wow.
order to pass that wealth on, you've got to put it in writing. And a lot of African Americans are good savers. That's something we aren't told, but they really save well.
Hmm.
And
That's
because
true.
a lot of African Americans are in, once discrimination reduced itself, where more of our young people could go into good jobs, now they've got 401ks.
Investing.
They've got life insurance.
Hmm.
They still, a lot of people invest in their 401ks. They really do. We've really taken advantage of that. And so by doing that, people will walk in the office and they got three and $400,000 in their 401k.
Hmm.
You see, that doesn't even count life insurance. It doesn't count the value of their house.
Yep.
It doesn't count the value of brokerage, accounts. And so the idea that you need to do something to make sure that wealth goes where you want it to go is beginning to get more traction in our community. And a lot of people have horror stories about, families that lost everything because so and so died and they didn't have a will, or somebody
Or
stole the
trust.
money or stole the property or whatever. And I must say, COVID made everybody realize you don't get out of here alive. You just don't. You're gonna leave.
Yes.
You're not gonna take nothing with you. And like I say on my show, somebody's gonna live in your house, and somebody's gonna. Okay.
Huh.
And that's just the reality of it. So you might as well control it by having a will, having a trust, and making sure that it goes the way you want it to go.
Absolutely.
But it's an evolution. You know what I mean? It's something that more people are starting to do as they realize they got something to leave.
Yep.
And it makes a big difference. It really does. Yeah.
Let me get Rob B. Rock in here. I see we have Michael Template on saying watching he's watching from Louisiana. That's awesome.
Oh,
Thank you,
cool.
Michael
Raised
Template.
in Louisiana.
Robbie,
I was raised in the city.
what's your question, Robbie?
So just a quick one. What tips do you have for someone who isn't sure how to start, where to begin?
Well, number one, go to a lawyer. Don't try and do these documents yourself. Don't try to get a form or have it done online. I've had too many people bring to me after somebody dies a will, and it's not, you can't get it admitted into court, you know. And so go to a lawyer, please. Um, Make sure your beneficiary designations are what you want. That's a biggie. That's very simple to do. So if you have life insurance, if you have retirement accounts, if you have, like most people do, okay, bank accounts, as long as your beneficiaries are adults and you don't want to put any kind of, limitations on when they can get it, just fill out the beneficiary forms. So let's say you have a life insurance policy.
I
I'm
do.
sure
Mhm.
Bill can tell you, if you have a life insurance policy and you want your wife or your children who are adults, be careful with minors. It's a little bit different. But as long as you want adults to be the beneficiaries, just name them on your beneficiary
Yep.
of your insurance policies, your retirement accounts, even on your bank accounts. Every bank account has a payable on death beneficiary designation.
Mhm.
Fill it out. It really makes it much easier for everybody that you are leaving behind.
Let
Okay,
me
and do it while you're young. You can always change these things.
so
Young
let me
people have a tendency to think that they're not going to die.
yeah,
Trust me, it's going to happen.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. So if let's say for example, I fill out those beneficiary forms and I change my mind and I write it in a will, does the will uh
No, beneficiary form
override? No?
overrides the will.
Okay.
So those beneficiary forms are important.
Those are very
So
important.
make
Yeah.
sure they are what you want them to be.
Okay.
Another thing that a lot of people don't realize, if you are married, a lot of people, especially men, assume that their wife is going to get everything. The law doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
Every state is different. But the wife, unless you say so, either in a will or on your beneficiary designation, the wife does not get everything. If you have
Okay.
children, the children are going to share. And if they're minors, the wife may not be the guardian of the money for the children. That doesn't happen that way. And even if you don't have children, your parents inherit with your wife. Okay.
Okay.
And that's a big surprise to a lot of people, because
Yeah, I
I've
think
had husbands come to me and they assume that when their
I
wife
assumed
died,
that.
hello, yes, that's why I'm saying it. There are a lot of men who assume that when they die, their wife is going to get everything.
Hmm.
If you don't have a will, or her name is not on your bank account, or and on your the property title, for your house,
Mhm.
then she will have to share with your parents.
Mm.
And I've had several
Hmm.
situations where the parents don't get along with the spouse,
Mm-mm.
and it's just a royal
I can't
mess.
have
It
that.
really is.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Right.
yeah.
I can't
Right.
have that.
Don't Yeah,
I
so you got
can't
to
have that.
As
okay,
a,
yeah, you got. And
as
so
a
what
co-
I think is, if you should have a will, you should go to a lawyer. If you are married or you're in a significant relationship, it doesn't have to be married, but if you live with somebody, y'all put your money together, you're paying your bills together, and that's who you would want to get your money, or that's who you'd want to get the house that you're buying together, or whatever.
Mhm,
Do a will and make sure they do a will that says, when I die, I want this person to get my stuff.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
And then go through your beneficiary designations, your life insurance, your transfer on death is what it's called when it's a brokerage account, your retirement accounts, all those things, because it makes a huge difference. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
So Jacqueline Robinson online says, my husband sold life insurance and his book, quotes, consisted mostly of black folks who only thought life insurance was for burial purposes. Trying
Yeah.
to sell whole life and universal policies was like pulling teeth. And that's what I was running into as well. It
Yeah.
was it was the whole sense of the only reason you get life insurance is to bury someone. And it was
Well,
I had to re-educate.
our
And
culture.
even then, it it was hard for them to hear that. Um,
Yeah. You have to understand that's cultural.
yep.
That a lot of us don't know our own history, and so let me just tell you a little bit about that. The first, I shouldn't say the first, but one of the first black millionaires was Mr. Gaskin in Alabama, and he made his money. He didn't. He started out with quarters. He started out poor. His mother cleaned houses and all. And what used to happen was when black people died, there was no money to bury them with, and they would have to collect
Mm.
money
Mhm,
to bury somebody. Okay.
mhm,
Even today, when somebody dies, I remember my mother died. I got checks for $25
mm,
because that was how people used to do it. Okay. Years ago, they would put together to bury each other.
mhm,
And so Gaskin came up with the idea of, if everybody gave me a quarter for each pay period, I would guarantee you that you would have a good burial, a decent burial. And you should read his book. That's how he started,
mm.
and he became a multimillionaire in Alabama.
Wow.
And he actually financed a lot of the civil rights stuff, with Martin Luther King and so on like that. But in
Very
our
interesting.
tradition, it was very important to have a decent burial, and so insurance became the way in which we did that. Okay, so that's where that's from. We don't know about using insurance as a way of gathering
Wealth.
capital for the next, of growing wealth.
Yeah.
We are not taught how to. That money is supposed to be used to make money. That's a
Yeah.
mindset that we haven't quite. A lot of people haven't. I mean, not just black
It's not
people. A
just
lot of
black
white,
people. It is not just black
Yeah,
people.
a lot of white people don't think about
Mhm.
enough money to have that money making money for you.
Yeah.
That's a transition that most of us are not taught.
But I will
Okay.
say, I mean, I agree it's not just black people, but I will say, culturally speaking, when I was sitting down with, say, an Asian family or a white family, it was just like they got it immediately. Yes, they were asking me questions about like, you have this type of insurance, you have that, you have this investment, and I'm like, oh yeah, heck yeah, and whereas if I was talking to a black family, there was a lot of convincing, a lot of teaching,
Yeah.
a lot of uh, but
Mhm.
but it wasn't every black family, like you said. It's a generalization, but it's not the reality for all families. It's not reality for
Yeah.
all, because there were some
That's
well-educated black people that I sat down with that were, again, just like some of the white families saying, "Hey, yeah, I want this insurance. I like that insurance. Tell me about it."
yeah.
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 So we are really short on time. So what I like to do, I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to Dr. Robbins and Ellen's question. We can bring you back if you'd like to join us again,
Glad
Attorney
to.
Mitchell, because there's
That
so many questions I
Oh,
think we could ask you. We could probably keep you on here for like 2 hours.
yeah.
But
anytime. Just let me know. I'd
okay,
really be glad to come back. Yeah.
I want to thank you for
Thank you.
joining
Wonderful.
us, and telling your story. But
Yeah.
are there any final words that you have for everyone out there?
Get a will. Just,
Keep it simple.
will, okay, do your beneficiary designations and take care of this. It's really important, especially when you have children. But take care. That's part of your responsibility for taking care of the next generation. It's an act of love. It really is. I mean, people don't realize that
It really
taking
is.
care of your family, whether it's just your spouse or your significant other, certainly your children, just do it. And then
Yeah.
it's done. You can always change it.
I'm gonna
So
just
just go on and
one little tip. So I mean, as soon as I got it, right? Because I wasn't taught these things growing up, but as soon as I got it, I immediately got $1 million policy. I had no children. I wasn't had no family. I was just like, I'm going to get $1 million, and I'm going to
Mhm,
make sure that when I have my family, we are good to go. And and I mean, it's just something. Once you realize the value, it's a
mhm.
fantastic thing.
It's
Again,
huge. Yeah.
thank you very much for joining us, Attorney
Having
Ethel
been.
Mitchell. Make sure you check out her show, uh, Law Talk with Attorney Ethel Mitchell. Also, the podcast. Go ahead and subscribe to that. You can go and
Yeah.
subscribe to it right now. All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Again, don't forget, subscribe to Attorney Ethel Mitchell's podcast, Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Great guest. Great guest.
A lot of good
Very
information.
Yeah. All right. So
And
she's been
do
waiting.
before-
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Rodney.
I said, and do those things before you get sick because it's a mess when it's after that.
Ah, crazy.
Yeah.
All right, and we have a treat for you guys. She's been waiting in our green room for quite some time. She's probably like,
Mhm.
hurry up, hurry up. But we have a second guest, and this is a fun one. Today's spotlight is on Rebecca Clark, Toronto Zookeeper. Hey, welcome to the show, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited to be here.
All right. So joining us today is a zookeeper, Rebecca Clark. She works at the famed Toronto Zoo. She's also an avid yogist. And we are thrilled to have her joining the show to talk about what's going on at the zoo and in her life. Thank you again for joining us, for coming on our humble podcast, Rebecca. So before we move forward, I got to ask you, we ask this of everybody. Can you tell us something that if I went to Google right now and typed in Rebecca Clark Zookeeper, what would not show up? Anything.
Probably that I don't have a TV. So I really like learning new things. So most of my free time from not having a TV, I spend reading and taking different courses and trying out different movement practices. So
Wow,
yeah.
I need to get rid of my TVs because I waste so much time. My mother used to call it the idiot box, and she was so right. All right, I'm going to actually start off with Dr. Robin, our resident veterinarian. She had a great question for you.
Yes, hi. So, what are you guys doing to protect the big in this since we know that we've seen a lot of them coming down with COVID after being exposed to people who have
Dr.
it?
Robin, could you repeat that one more time? We lost the beginning of it. Say it again.
Sure. I was like, what are you guys doing to protect the big cats during this pandemic? Since a lot of zoos have come down with positive, the big cats, the minks, that have come down after being exposed to people who have COVID.
Good question.
That is a great question. So, at the Toronto Zoo, all of the staff have to be fully vaccinated, and all of the visitors have to be fully vaccinated as well. So, that is the first step that we're taking to protect our animals. They've also put up barriers so that there's no aerosolized particles that are being able to reach the COVID susceptible animals. And we have protocols in place when working with those animals based on the severity of the risk. So using N95 masks, wearing gloves. So we are taking it seriously. They keep adding new animals as COVID progresses. There's quite a few species that are actually on the list. But cats seem to be a big one, and in particular, snow leopards seem to be getting hit pretty hard with
Mhm.
COVID.
So this is a
Yeah.
question for both you and Dr. Robin. So are you seeing a lot of COVID cases, particularly with cats and any other animals? Are you seeing a lot of those cases?
We have not, luckily, in this area. I mean, the animals we've tested a few, and luckily, all the animals we've tested have come back negative.
Mhm.
Cats in general are susceptible to coronavirus, period. Like they have their own coronavirus, they're very susceptible to their own coronavirus. So we're not necessarily surprised to see cats being very high on the list of things if they were going to be any kind of cross, that cats are there.
And Rebecca, are you seeing a lot of cases or no?
We actually haven't seen any cases at our zoo. Most of the information is coming from other zoos. There's been a lot of stuff coming from the States. So,
Yeah, which
one
isn't
facility,
surprising.
I think it was Denver just had it in their hyena clan. I'm pretty
Mm,
sure it was Denver. So, there's been a bunch of different species that are getting it, and we are hoping to start vaccinating some of our animals as well. So I know in the States a bunch of the primate groups have been vaccinated against COVID.
mm,
So
Hmm.
yeah,
awesome.
just trying to do our best to protect the animals in our care.
That's awesome. There's one comment online from Rebecca Bell who says, "quote throws out her TV." She just so you already got the word out to at least one person. All right, Ellen, did you have a question for Rebecca?
Yeah, so this wouldn't be a question if you worked in a zoo in America, because the answer would be yes. But did you guys get any backlash over having vaccine requirements for visitors?
Yes, we did. Um,
Mhm.
I think that has been challenging. Um,
Mhm.
I think some of the other industries have had more backlash, though. I think once you start talking about how our animals are susceptible and they currently aren't able to be vaccinated, they can't wear masks, they can't wash their
Right.
hands. I think when you express the risk, and that's one of the main motivators for this, I think people can see it a little bit better. But we still have had people that have been pretty upset by it, and you've been seeing that on our social media platforms and even feedback that the zoo has been getting. So yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Robbie?
One of the more interesting impacts that I've seen as far as the pandemic on animals is some social animals falling into depression because they're not interacting with the humans that they're used to seeing every day. So I'm just curious if you've seen anything like that at the Toronto Zoo, and what methods have you come up with to counter that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we we've had stretches where we've been closed to the public because of COVID, and we definitely have some species that have been impacted by that. So any of the animals that tend to be highly social, the primates and the hyenas are two in particular that seem to miss having the visitors and the public. Um, so one of the things that we've been doing to help with that is when the zoo was closed, they were having um, events where they were asking staff members to come up and hang out with the hyenas and
That's
hang
cool.
out with the primates, just so that they had people to interact with. I think some of the animals have liked the break and have liked the peace and quiet, and we've definitely seen an increase in the native wildlife. So there's been lots of deer running around site and lots of foxes. So
Huh.
that's been cool. But yeah, we've been trying to keep them entertained, and a bunch of our animals have TVs that they can watch and have have some sort of
visual
irony.
stimulation. Yeah. But we also give our animals enrichment and do training with them, and lots of stuff to keep them stimulated.
Yeah. So your other passion is yoga, right?
Yes.
So I heard that you are doing yoga at the zoo. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So because of my industry, and I'm sure Dr. Robin can attest to that as well, compassion fatigue is a big thing
Right.
where you're working with other living
Mhm.
things, and that can be really draining. We see hard things. Um, so yeah, I have been through a bunch of that at the zoo. So I felt it was very important to kind of teach yoga to staff to help give them an outlet and to help find a way to channel some of this emotion. So yeah,
Oh,
it's mainly for staff, but I have done some other
okay.
events
So
at the zoo.
you're doing for staff. So but you spoke about. I'm interested now in where you're talking about compassion fatigue. So what happens? Can you describe that? And I'll ask Robin the
Um,
same thing.
yeah, I think any job where you are providing care, um, it's really challenging because there's a lot of emotion that goes into it, and I think people pick these jobs because we do care and because we do want to make a difference. So I think when you're seeing hard things and dealing with hard things on a regular basis, animals dying, sick animals, when you're seeing the emotional impact that has on other people,
Mm,
it can just be very heavy. There's also traumatic stuff that happens, and if you are not finding a way to um,
cool.
kind of channel that,
Mhm.
then it gets stored in the body. So like trauma work is like another one of my passions.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's important to find that release.
Well, I'm gonna get to Robin in a second. So trauma work is another one of your passions. I need to know more. You keep saying these words. I now need to know more. What trauma work? What is that? What do you do?
So I've been playing around with it's called TRE, so it's trauma release exercises.
Mm,
So emotions get stored in the body as tension, and trauma release work is kind of like a backdoor way to instead of talking about the trauma, it's a way to allow the body to physically release that tension. So
mhm,
it results in shaking, which is what animals do um, to get rid of trauma themselves. So if you capture an animal and then let it go, it will sit there and shake. As humans, we've learned to suppress this
mm.
natural ability to release trauma.
Okay.
So this is a cool way where we can look at animals and see how they're doing it effectively, and ways that we can start to get rid of this, so we're not storing it and then having health problems down the road as a result of that.
I love that. All right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
I want to ask Dr. Robin about this compassion fatigue. Are you dealing with that as a veterinarian as well?
Oh, yes. The veterinary field has the highest suicide rate of any professional
I didn't know that.
in the world. And a lot of that is due to the fact that we deal with life and death on a regular basis,
Hmm.
and in such a way that you are, at least in my world, you're you have a client, which is the human, and then you have your patient, which is the little four-legged, two-legged, winged, whatever, that comes in, and you are balancing the needs of your patient with the needs of your client, and
Mm,
helping your
Mm,
client through the grieving process,
mm,
helping your client deal with bad uh, diagnosis, and helping them make choices for their loved one who can't talk. And it is taking its toll on members of our profession, um,
I
so
can
much.
imagine.
And like we said, we are battling a lot of depression. They're battling a lot of suicide, um,
Mm,
and compassion fatigue is a huge issue right now. And we're trying to find answers and try to find ways. And it's really kind of cool to hear, you're doing like the yoga with your workmates to help them deal with that. That's really, really cool, and really exciting to hear that, we're trying to find ways to combat it. So kudos.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I can't imagine because Rebecca, Dr. Robin actually was my veterinarian, and I had to put down, you know, one of my dogs, my favorite dog. I had the dog when I was like, 8 weeks into my little palm of my hand, and I can't imagine. I mean, that was horrible for me, but with Dr. Robin being a friend, she knows me, and then she's probably seeing me react, and then she knew the dog, and so I can't imagine what that. And now I
Yeah.
didn't know about the suicide being an issue. I've never even heard the term compassion fatigue.
Mhm.
This is like a this, and I love what you're doing with the yoga. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, Online, we have Paulette Bertrand says, I'm surprised by this info. First time I heard of this. It makes sense, though. Jose says,
Yeah.
Holy, I never would have thought of that, a suicide being an issue. And she also says, animals are also so vulnerable. Wow,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that is amazing. So I love what you're doing at the Toronto Zoo. It must be like the funnest job ever, though. I mean, I know we're talking compassion fatigue and we're talking like all these negative things, but it's got to be fun some days too, right?
Oh, it's amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like we have such a variety, so I get to work with so many different species, and I've got to work with a lot of things over the course of my career, and got to participate in a lot of really cool opportunities. So yeah, it's the greatest. I get paid to go to work and have fun and share my passion with other people. So it doesn't get much better
Hmm.
than that.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, we are out of time. So I definitely want to thank you so much for joining us. Are there any
Thank you.
last
Thank you.
words, any last thoughts, any shout outs you want to give to anyone?
I just want to say that hyenas are the most amazing animals, and if you don't know anything about them, then look them up. They have lots of incredible, um, interesting tidbits about them. So yeah,
So, do you care for
that's my shout out.
hyenas?
I
So,
used to, yeah.
something I learned from Rebecca is that hyenas purr like cats. It's
Mhm.
amazing. Just this low rumble
Oh my
kind of
gosh.
purring thing.
Are they from the dog family or are they from the cat family?
They are kind of like a weird cat dog. They're not part of either, but from a physiological
Hmm.
perspective, they're more closely related to the cat.
Mm.
But my favorite tidbit about hyenas is that the females have pseudopenises. So they look like they have an actual penis, and they get erections as well. So
Oh, wow.
Interesting. Why?
I'll just drop that.
Seems unnecessary.
Wait, before we go, I gotta ask you, what is your favorite animal to care for?
Probably the hyenas.
The hyenas.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Who are you caring for now? If you're not doing hyenas now, who's your animal, your main animal now?
I work with birds of prey mainly.
Also, like
Mm.
eagles and hawks and all the good stuff.
Yeah,
Modern day dinosaurs. Well done.
yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So, okay. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us. Wow, this was a
Thanks for
great,
having me.
and again,
Thank
I'd love
you.
to have you back to talk some more. So if you ever want to come back, you just let us know. We'd love to have you. So, all right. Thank you again, and we will talk to you soon. All right. See ya. Jose says, "Ooh, cranes. I guess cranes are birds of prey, aren't they?"
If you're a frog or a fish, for sure.
That's such a sick name for like a subspecies. Birds of prey.
Oh!
So intense. So intense.
All right. Before we get into our quick fire, let's give a shout out to our sponsor for today's episode, Utopian Lights Candles. That's Utopian with an E. Utopian Lights Luxury Candles caters to a specific clientele. They focus on clients who are on their healing journey to self love. Visit utopian with an E, lights.co for a healthy glow up. Use the code GOALGETTER and you'll receive 25% off your purchase of $45 or more. Again, that's utopian with an E, lights.co, the home of luxury manifestation handle. All right, it's time for quickfire. All right, our hosts have some topics to share, but we only have 3 minutes to discuss and 1 minute to hear from the audience. So make sure you type in those comments fast. Any topics where our host won't shut up, we've got the dreaded mute button. And we'll save any of their comments for the after show. All right, let's do it. You're up first,
All
Robbie.
right. Okay, so there's so much happening with the ongoing occupation of Ottawa by the self-named Freedom Convoy, but I want to focus in on just two things. So earlier this week, the GoFundMe cut off funding for the Freedom Convoy organizers because it determined that the campaign violated the site's terms of service due to unlawful activity. Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis tweeted, "It is a fraud for GoFundMe to commandeer $9 million in donations sent to support truckers and give it to causes of their own choosing. GoFundMe has issued full refunds, so he's out to lunch on that." Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, also Republican, tweeted, "Patriotic Texans donated to Canadian truckers' worthy cause." Also, Canadian Indigenous and peoples of color are decrying the lack of response by Canada's police forces, citing the history that they have had with RCMP being deployed to their protests or blockades. So, two questions. Why are the US Republicans so invested in Canada's Freedom Convoy? And I would like for you to share a thought, opinion on the systemic racism in response or lack thereof to these protesters.
All right, Ellen, we'll start with you.
Well, of course, Republicans got into this, right? Like, with people don't know how to mind their business across borders. I mean, it's at this point, it's just kind of, it seems like identity politics. They're like, all right, we'll support these Canadian essentially insurrectionists because we would want them to do the same. And these people aren't going to be, it's a bunch of white people. These people are not going to be, they're going to, the system is going to let them do their thing, right? They're not going to, these people are seen as brave soldiers in this, greater problem for freedom. But, these people, if these people were any other race, they would be, this would have been shut down immediately, and then Republicans would also get involved in it for different reasons. So yeah.
All right, Dr. Robin, what do you think?
I think that, right now it just goes to the current system right now of trying to, claim this freedom and play a victim in which you're not. And we, these mandates and things are in place for health, and apparently people just want to die. And we definitely also know that, we have seen time and time again when there are other protests with people who look different than the ones that are currently playing victim, the police are there in full force, even peaceful.
Yeah, the same thing for the January 6th, or where were the police? But you go in Kenosha and everywhere else, and the police are like, in full armor and everything. Robbie, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's. I know that there's going to be some investigation as far as into what the Republicans have been doing, the funding elements, because if U.S. government bodies are funding these freedom fighters, this occupation, then that's a point of contention between our two countries. That's bullshit. Stay in your lane, absolutely. And really, as far as identifying the systemic racist element in it, it wasn't something that I was really aware of until I really dove into it, and just the lack of response is what's mind blowing, because the RCMP, our federal police force, is very regularly deployed if there's a blockade, a protest at a pipeline or a railway. When there's Indigenous people, it gets tense fast. So this has been a party atmosphere for about a week for the protesters, while the people of Ottawa feel like they are under siege.
All right. So online, we got Jose said, get out of the way. Get out, stay away. GOP needs to leave Canada alone. Republicans are a bad rash that spreads. Bunch of white people. So true. All right. So what are we calling this? Are we calling this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
I got truth and shenanigans.
I got wrong one. Shenanigans.
Shenanigans. What are you saying, Robin?
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans. Sherry Blaine Priest says, FYI, the Ottawa mayor is declaring a state of emergency this afternoon amid the Freedom Convoy being underway. Crazy. Ridiculousness. All right. Dr. Robin Johnson, you wanted to talk about these HBCUs.
Yes. So in the past week, several HBCUs have been targeted with bomb threats against the campuses that have either closed the campuses or put them on high alert. There was also another rash of it that happened around January 6th. And so my question is, what do we need to do to protect these universities and these kids just trying to get an education?
Wow. Yeah, I think it's it's crazy. I mean, this world, this post-Trump era that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, before Trump, the racism was there, right? I felt it, I knew it. Fortunately, I live in a metropolitan area where it's not horrible. But when I leave the metropolitan area, I was in North Carolina for a couple of years. I lived there, maybe 3 years, I think it was, and it was so different, right? Racism was really horrible. And, the thing about the Trump era is he made it easy to be a racist. He made it easy to be a racist. And so now that's why we have all of these attacks on people of color. We have going up and, all of the protests. And then, of course, these bomb threats. It's just so easy to attack people. And it's really frustrating. What do you think, Ellen?
I don't know the answer at a larger scale, but I know that a lot of times people leave breadcrumbs on the internet. The kind of people who would put out these threats. These people have Reddit accounts, they have 4chan accounts. Get their asses. Like people need to be held accountable for what they say online, and try to connect it to these people putting out these threats, because they're not coming from nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Ellen was saying, I really don't know how we can protect these students better immediately, but in the long run, I think that we need to stop banning books. We need to stop banning real history. We have to stop banning critical race theory, banning subject matter that leads to ignorance and fear, because that's where we end up. It is a post-Trump thing where they've been emboldened, more brazen. It's okay to come out into the light and share your views. And because there's strength in numbers, then, they're just raising the bar just a little bit more. And unfortunately, this xenophobic element seems to be ramping up worldwide. I don't think that this is just a US thing, but the fact that this is happening during Black History Month is targeted, and it's disgusting.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Robin, I'm going to give you a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm a proud graduate of HBCU, North Carolina A&T, and we have a long-standing history of even being in the movement, the Greensboro Four, and so this is not something that is new for these schools. And the sad part, though, is that generation after generation after generation, we are still fighting the same thing. We are still dealing with the same thing. You would think that hopefully, in the 60s, they did that, they marched, they did those things, and that maybe we could be at a different level. But here we are in 2022, and these schools are still receiving these threats and having to fight the battle all over again. And I really would like to see, a lot of, the kind of the cloak of protection, a lot of those groups that, stand and say they want to be there. I'd like to see the NOI. I'd like to see the Black Panthers. I would just like to see everyday citizens, just there to let these students know we're not going to let you guys get hurt, and you go ahead and continue your education.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's frustrating just that skin color, a little extra melanin. I mean, not even a little extra melanin. I mean, to be honest, melanin is the base DNA. So, I
Hmm.
mean, if you look at, our historically lack of melanin, albinism is, you know, a defect from having melanin. So it's
Mhm.
amazing how skin color has become the identifier of just attacks.
Yeah.
I mean, on
Mhm.
people. Um, yeah, so we have a comment online. It's bad enough our houses of worship are threatened. Now, this is from Jacqueline Robinson. It's bad enough our houses of worship are threatened. Now we have to worry about our institutions of learning. The timing of these threats is no accident.
No.
Of course not.
No.
Black History Month? Of course not. Uh, Jose says, sad world we live in right now. Because of Trump, we've gone back in time. Totally agree with that. I did read that I think they have a couple of suspects. So
Good.
um,
That's good.
just
Yeah.
that's good movement. I don't know if they've moved on them or what, but I heard that. All right, are we calling this truth, lies, or shenanigans? More
I wish
ridiculous
Liz was here. This is
shenanigans.
bullshit. This
Bullshit.
I
is
She
know.
can.
Bullshit.
bullshit.
Dr. Robin can say this is bullshit. She can say
Bullshit. Just total.
it.
Total.
You can sit in. This is Paula Bertrand says online, my nephew and his wife drove 4 hours to come and get some sleep at their parents. Oh, this is from your
They
topic
live in
earlier.
Ottawa, so
Mhm.
they drove to their parents in Sudbury so that they could get some sleep.
Wow. Craziness. All right, let's move on to our last topic. All right, some of you may or may not know the highly popular show The Masked Singer on Fox. Basically, it's famous people dressed in costumes, and their identities are kept secret from the hosts, audience, and of course the judges, who all try to guess who it is. Well, Trump lackey, an assistant orchestrator for the January 6th attack, Mr. Rudy Giuliani, was recently revealed as a guest. The judges, Kim Jong Un, or I'm saying Kim
Oh,
Jong
Kim Jong. Just Ken Jong. Ken Jong.
Bro.
Ken
Oh
Jong.
my god.
The judges Kim Jong and Robin Thicke angrily left the stage and refused to participate. The Fox network, who also owns the ultra right wing Fox News channel, has a history of using its popular platforms and their shows to try to revive the careers of some of their infamous Fox News personalities and right wing politicians. Fox has, of course, not said anything about this incident. So, my question is, with Fox News continuing to impact elections, spread misinformation, advocate racism and racist views, should we start to boycott all their other programming to get them to start to change? And will that actually do anything? Let me start with. I'll start with Robbie.
Well, I think Fox is doing the work for you because Rudy Giuliani is no longer beloved by all. He's a toxic nut job. And as far as being a performer, I think that my favorite performance from him so far was in the Borat subsequent movie film. Absolutely wonderful depiction of Rudy in that. But I honestly hope that maybe Rudy will perform a cover of The Booger Man Is Coming.
The Booger Man. Oh, that was,
Yeah.
we should re-show that clip. We should have that on.
Oh my God.
Dr. Robin, your thoughts?
I mean, the way this world works is people don't listen unless you hit them in their pocket. So, if you start to, redirect those funds, those advertising funds to, things that want to be seen, those are the things that get promoted. So, you know, that's the only way to respond is till you hit them in the money.
Yeah. Ellen?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Robin. But also I think that we can count on at least a little bit affiliates of Fox News to just keep doing self-owns. Like, the stuff comes out. Like Bill O'Reilly didn't need to be like, his own stuff came out. He was a creep, right? Nobody
Mhm.
needed to specifically cancel his show because the world just came to hate him. So, these hosts are the worst. I think that same will happen to Tucker. I think that these are shitty people, and that will come out because of the power of the internet.
So you're saying I can keep watching The Masked Singer, and because I do like the show.
I was gonna say you should stop watching The Masked Singer because that show sucks. But
I like the show.
yeah.
I like the whole guessing behind it. It's kind of funny. Anyway, all right. So I can't.
See,
So
this
I
harkens
should
back to
boycott.
Rebecca. Harkens back to Rebecca. Don't throw out your TV, but stop watching shit like this.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't a problem for her.
That's funny.
Yes.
All right, those are great quick fire questions. Let's see. I got some comments online. Says Jacqueline Rom says, I don't blame them for walking out. Media continues to commit malpractice by rewarding and normalizing criminals and people who should be shunned. And that's the thing. He is a criminal. I mean, he hasn't been convicted necessarily, but he's certainly a criminal. So are we calling this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
More
More
shenanigans.
This is
More
all
shenanigans.
shenanigans today, this week.
Yeah.
This all shenanigans. This episode. Okay. Everybody says shenanigans. All right. Good stuff. All right. Great topics. Let's jump right on in. We are really over on time today. I kind of figured we might be. But let's get
Yeah.
into our game show. All right, guys, today's game is quick and dirty. Really simple. The app, Quick and Dirty, will give you a fill in the blank or other statement, and then a random letter. You must shout out a word starting with that letter to fill in the blank or answer the question. The person with the most accurate or funniest response, judged by yours truly, gets a point, and the person with the most points gets the final thought for the show. For example, we have on here a bad place to get dumped, starting with the letter S. I don't know.
Sunday school.
Sears.
Shitter.
Did you say shitter?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going with that.
You're dumped.
So I would pick Sunday school in this, for example. All right, so are we ready? Everybody ready? Get started.
Peace.
All right. Way to a man's heart, starting with the letter C. Way to a man's
Chicken.
heart.
Chicken.
I mean, come on.
Come
me
on,
and Rob
say
have
it.
the same
Say
thing.
it.
I
You
saw
gotta
it.
say it.
1, 2, 3.
Say it. Say it.
Yeah, come on, Rob.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it. Say it louder.
I can't.
You can do it.
All right, Ellen gets the point.
You're such a
could you repeat it, Ellen? I wanted to make sure you heard it all.
Cock.
Okay, all right, like it. Way to a man's heart. All right, yep. Ellen gets the point on that one. Sorry, chicken was good, but yeah, I'm going with cock.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nicer.
A way to get over a breakup. All right, way to get over a breakup, starting with the letter U.
Under a new one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Robbie is like speechless. I don't know.
That's the right, but she's got the right answer.
Ellen, Rob, what? right.
Uzo.
Okay, no.
The Greek hooker.
I repeat your answer, Dr. Robin. Go ahead. Repeat
Under
your
a
answer.
new one.
Under a new one. All right.
Under
Way
a
to get
new
over a break. We get under a new one. All right. Robin, Dr. Robin gets that point. All right, ready for the next one? Let's go. Excuse to blow off a guy. All right, an excuse to blow off
Interesting
a guy.
wording.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So feel free to use it effectively.
Okay.
Starting with the letter V. Oh gosh.
Uh,
Say
vag
it.
infection.
A vag infection. Starting with the letter V. Go ahead. Excuse to blow off a guy. All right. Robbie gets it. All right.
Yeah, I couldn't.
All right. So 1 point each. All right. Reason you need a man. Reason you need a man. Starting with the letter A. Reason you need a man. Starting with the letter A.
Actually, you don't.
Okay. Ooh, Robbie.
Aggravation.
Aggravation. Okay. All right.
Um,
I'm going with. All right. I'm going with. Actually, you don't. You don't need a man. All right. I'm going with that. All right. Something that smells good. Starting with I.
ice cream.
Incense.
Dang. Two good answers.
Robbie is struggling. Robbie is struggling today
I'm
on this
struggling
game.
today. I'm usually quick on this one.
Robbie is
Damn.
struggling. Ice cream and incense. I'm going with ice cream. Ice cream. All right. So Robbie,
Ice
you.
cream does not emit a smell.
This is the.
Sure it does.
What are you talking about?
The good ones do.
Woo.
Yeah, I guess it does.
All right, Robbie, this is your last chance to catch up. Let's see. Women are better at. Starting with the letter blank. Women are better at blank.
Everything.
Starting with letter E.
Explaining.
Everything.
Everything. Explaining.
Excellence.
Everything gets it. All right. All right. This is the last chance, Robbie. You are out of it. Dr. Robin, you do have a chance to at least tie Ellen. So here we go. A girl should be classy and blank. Starting with the letter D. Classy and Dr. Robin and Ellen.
Devastating.
Devastating. Okay, Dr. Robin tied it. Ellen took too long.
Yeah,
All right, this is the last one. This is for all the marbles.
Dirty.
All the marbles.
Dirty.
All the marbles. Here we go. Male bad habit. Dr. Robin and Ellen. Male bad habit. Starting with the letter Q.
Quick to judge.
Quick to judge. All right, we're going with that. So Dr. Robin wins the game. Dr. Robin said classy and dishy. Dishy. Jose said cock earlier.
Yeah,
So-
we're all on the same page.
She was with you, Ellen. All right, let's get in some shout
She
outs.
gets it.
Phrasing. Phrasing.
All right, let's start with Ellen today.
My shout out, as it often does, goes to University of Maryland students, and I hope that maybe this is just me projecting, but we all start building some good habits this week, because I know I saw a bunch of little 20-year-olds scattered across Route 1 throwing up on themselves, so I hope all those people are okay. So yeah, everyone, I hope that everyone gets together this week.
All right, Robbie, your shout out.
Shout out to all of the protesters that are going out and doing it without really having a serious impact on your fellow Canadians. A shout out to the counter protesters who are letting their voice be heard and do no longer want to be occupied. And really a shout out to all Canadians. I know that this is a divisive time, but we can't lose sight that we are all in this together.
All right, Dr. Robin, shout out. Any shout outs to anybody?
I'd like to shout out to all the teachers who are teaching our children and everything that they're going through, and know that we parents truly appreciate you for taking them every Monday through Friday.
I bet you do appreciate
Yeah.
that. All right, my shout outs to my fellow Wilson Tiger classmate from high school, Matt Loftus, who passed away recently. Lizzie is actually attending his funeral right now. It took me a minute to remember who he was, but once I did, he was a really cool guy. And it's sad that someone so young was taken. So sending my shout out to Matt. And our final shout out goes to the winner of our pet shenanigans of the week.
Henry again.
This is a group favorite, Henry from Jose Vanderlight. She posted a pic of her hefty cat Henry leaning in his bed looking like a boss with the caption, Henry is just chilling on a Tuesday night. To see all of the pets and post your favorite pets photo or video, join TLS Pet Shenanigans Facebook group going to mypetshenanigans.com. The photo with the most likes and comments gets a TLS shout out each and every week. All right, and that is officially all of the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. We hope that maybe you learned something, gained a new perspective. We even got some things off your chest. We'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Real estate agent Tasha Coleman is coming back. This time is a spotlight for Black History Month. She'll be talking real estate and the Black community. And we'll, of course, have more hot topics and deep discussions. Don't forget the podcast is available for download every Monday. So subscribe to Truth Lies Shenanigans wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Beyond the Scars podcast, the Beyond the Scars podcast. And the conversation is not ending here. We are going to continue to keep the cameras rolling for the after show. We only have about 15 minutes, so we'll see what the conversation is. Head over there now to listen. Looks like our winner is Dr. Robin for our final thought of the day.
All right, my final thought of the day is that, with everything that's going on and the very vocal group that's out there, we have to remember that they're truly in the minority and that there's a lot more people who are on the side of righteousness, and that you just need to start to make those voices heard and not be complacent or complicit, and don't let it get you down, because there are more people who don't think like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great thought.
Beautiful.
All right, thank you, Dr. Robin and Ellen and Robbie Rock. And our people behind the scenes always working hard to bring you an awesome show. Lizzie, Nesmi, Gianni, Jose, and Olivia E. But most importantly, we have to thank you for watching and listening to our shenanigans each and every week. And we will